Hey and welcome, I'm Hammeh and Lore, we have some Overwatch Lore news. I know I'm as excited as you are. In a tweet from Michael Chu, a long lost, perhaps even forgotten about, speculated as to whether they even still exist character has been confirmed as still being an important part of the story. So I'm quickly going to talk about in this video that news and what it could mean for the Overwatch story and world in 2020 and beyond, what I think will happen in Overwatch Lore and story this year as we await Overwatch 2 and whenever that's going to come, and then quick plans for the channel and how this will affect what I'm going to be up to the next week and indeed in the months and years hopefully ahead. So do have a look at that if you're interested in a channel update at the end. Timecodes in the description if you'd like to skip. So firstly the news, well, in a tweet on Twitter, user Zatos asked Michael Chu, lead writer, of course, on Overwatch, what was going on with Liao, whether they were still a thing, would they be ever mentioned other than just their name, and is the person on the cover of the cancelled First Strike graphic novel Liao, which is something that I indeed and many others have speculated for quite some time. We're going back to 2016 here. Michael Chu said, definitely still an important character and more to come. So that is the very short news in and of itself, but what of Liao and their background, and what could this mean for Overwatch story in the year leading up to Overwatch 2? Let's have a little delve into the past. So we actually only have one confirmed mention of Liao. We have no other information on them apart from a second speculation based off the cover of First Strike. So where do we find Liao? Well, if you go back to the launch of Overwatch in 2016, there was a launch blog called Overwatch is Back. This blog was a good one because it wrapped up several things that were announced pre-Overwatch. There's a lot of storytelling before Overwatch in tweets, in images shared on the Overwatch Twitter, all stuff that I've got archived on my channel here in various playlists if you want to go back and look at all of the past. And this blog drew together several old blogs and also put some nice little new nuggets and things in. And one of those was the mention of Liao as being a sixth member of the original Overwatch Strike team. So at that time, way back in May of 2016, I made a video called Who is Liao? And I've linked those videos in the description below as well if you want to go back and have a little look at the blast from the past. Now, the blog said that the UN covertly brought together a few unique minds to form a small nimble team aimed at striking significant blows against omnic strongholds. Their names Morrison, Reyes, Amari, Liao, Wilhelm and Lindholm have since become legendary. The world would come to know them as the founders of Overwatch. Since then, Liao in everything has never been mentioned. We have never heard anything about them, but we do know that some members of the original Overwatch unit retired in supposed disgrace. There have been many hints as to Reinhardt's retirement and the circumstances around that, not being due to his age as kind of his bio puts out, but with voice lines and things since, we've been sowed the seed that it's not all what it seems and maybe there was some other circumstance behind it. So, with the circumstances under which Overwatch fell, with certain members of the team and things retiring in disgrace and things, is Liao, through their lack of mention, perhaps one of the disgraced ones? That could be quite a cool and fun storyline. Now, the other reason that Liao may not have been mentioned since then was because of them being named, and perhaps I think, even though this is a speculation based on the cover, of them potentially being a big part of First Strike, was, or is, it's still existing somewhere in some forms, I'm sure, an 100-page graphic novel detailing the original Overwatch Strike team during the first Omnic crisis. Now, for lore fans, and indeed for Overwatch fans in general, this was pretty hyped up. It was a big part of the pre-Overwatch hype, and during the year of Overwatch hype, alongside all of the comics that were released, alongside all of the animated shorts, there were so many comics in a short time, so many animated shorts in a short time, and we've not had that intensity since this big build up for launch. There was also the graphic novel, 100 pages long, written by Mickey Nielsen, brilliant author, drawn by Ludo Lullaby, I never know how to pronounce that, who has done a lot of amazing work on other Blizzard comics and things in the past, awesome artist, and we got shown it twice at 2 consecutive San Diego Comic Cons. It was part of panels that Blizzard did, pages were shown, Overwatch's story was talked about, so it was really hyped up as part of this whole story of Overwatch and showing us what happened in Overwatch's past. Now the cover for that was where the second piece of Liao inspiration comes from. Having a look at this cover, we see 5 characters that are very, very familiar to us, and one that is not. It's that simple. So, when Overwatch launched with a blog, we got given 6 names. With the increasing hype towards the supposed launch of First Strike, we were given 6 people on the cover of the graphic novel. And actually, it went very, very quiet. It was being promoted up until the SDCC around Overwatch was being launched, as far as I recall. And then, suddenly after BlizzCon, we had this post from Michael Chu explaining why it was cancelled. Long story short, the team deciding, or saying that they decided to take the story of Overwatch during the first Omnic crisis in a different direction. Now, until we see more about the story around the first Omnic crisis and how Blizzard talk about that in future and in what forms it comes out. We can only speculate as to what the reasons were. I think in some ways, Blizzard, from watching panels at BlizzCon when they talk about the development of Overwatch and the launch, sort of looking back on it years later, were perhaps not expecting just how big a thing Overwatch is going to be in terms of its story and in terms of its wider popular appeal for the universe when things actually launched. Also, I think later that year or earlier the next year, Chris Metzen, Blizzard storytelling legend and guru, who had worked on many Blizzard games and stories and universes for a long time and was key in announcing and putting Overwatch out there, he left the company to look after himself and to take some much deserved rest. And then in interviews, there were sort of talks from the Blizzard team about Overwatch's world and universe and how they, as developers and as custodians, as they put it, of the story, interacted with the ideas and thoughts and discussions of the fandom of Overwatch lore, story and universe enthusiasts. And this sort of phrase of them being like caretakers and keepers and seeing it as more of a two-way process was something that came out in a lot of interviews. Now, relatively speaking, I think that First Strike, as far as I can see, there were tweets talking about the art and things from the author and from the artist and from the story perspective. This was complete, if not almost complete. It was very, very close to being done and being just launched. So this decision to cancel this was a big one, and this effectively was 100 pages of laying down an Overwatch canonical piece of lore. Blizzard then talking about wanting to have the story being a bit more flexible in the way they told it, but I do wonder whether Blizzard wanted to give themselves more freedom in being able to tell the story rather than lay down 100 pages of lore that they'd always have to refer back to. And a lot of us wondered whether Liao was a casualty of that and whether this would get sort of tweaked, retconned or changed at some point. However, Michael Chu's tweet means that Liao is still on the table. So what can it mean for the Overwatch world this year? Well, coming into Overwatch 2, given that Blizzard said at BlizzCon 2019 they would probably still be talking about Overwatch 2 in a similar way this year at BlizzCon, I don't think a release date is on the table for this year, and I don't think that's realistic in the slightest. Maybe 2021? In which case, are we going to be seeing a lore-style, story-style build-up to Overwatch 2 later this year, like we did for the original Overwatch? A big deluge of stuff for nearly a year in advance, of comics, of animated shorts, all building up around BlizzCon later this year, and then perhaps a launch in 2021, maybe April or May, similar to Overwatch did when it launched in 2016. If we see that, then it could be a really busy year for Overwatch lore, and I'm really, really excited for that. But we'll just have to wait and see. I think certainly with the dev team saying that they're going to be focusing on Overwatch 2, that there are going to be, even with Jeff's forum post the other day, more regular balance updates to the existing game, then there's still a lot on the table for Overwatch this year. And remember, of course, that however Overwatch 2 is something that we can buy, the existing element of the PvP, fighting each other game that you play and know and love right now is something that you will still be able to play even if you don't buy the new game that has the story mode and everything added onto it. If you own Overwatch right now, the maps, the game modes that you play, the heroes that are released, these are all things that you will be able to play with people who buy Overwatch 2, whether you buy Overwatch 2 or not. It's the story mode and things that are the additional content as far as we understand it right now. Hey, so last and by no means least, a quick little facecam and a little chat and a little update on all things Hammeh in the channel for you. Hope you're well, hope you're good. Very, very sorry that it's been a little bit quiet over the last month or two. I've been quite busy IRL and then also sorting out just what I'm going to be doing here over the weeks, months and hopefully years to come. So as I've mentioned, as we've talked about, as we build up to Overwatch 2, 2020 could be a really, really busy year for Overwatch Lore. It also might not be. We just don't know at this point in time. Now I'm hoping it will be, and whatever happens in Overwatch Lore in the future, as that is where my channel has come from and how you guys have joined me, I will always be covering lore, interactions, voice lines, comics, animated shorts, story analysis, short stories, anything to do with the story of the game and the world of the game, in or outside of the game, and things that Blizzard release, because I love it and I know you guys love it too. However, if you've kept an eye on the channel for the last year, couple of years, nearly 4 years now, it's going to be a 4-year anniversary of Overwatch this May. You know that at times and at points I've always wanted to share more stories with you. I love other games, I love other worlds, whether it be in TV, books, films, other video games, board games, and all kinds of things besides. So I'm going to be starting to finally share those with you, and I'm really, really excited about it. So keep an eye out next week and beyond. I'm going to be doing pilot videos in a pilot week that are coming up. Now, if you've watched the channel, you know that I've tried to do this at points over the last really couple of years, but things have got busy or I've just not been able to do it. So now is the time. I'm very, very excited for that. There will be different kinds of Overwatch videos in that week as well, and then also a few videos about other things and other games. I'm really excited about it. Do let me know what you think about it. If you're here for Overwatch and Overwatch only, cool, I get that. Maybe give these things a go. I'd love to hear what you think. And if you like the other stuff, then do let me know. Let me know what's good. Let me know what's not. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts. So stand by for a bunch of more experimental Overwatch videos, and then also videos about other games and other worlds outside video games, in books, in TV and things as well. I really, really can't wait. Last but my name is least, thank you so much for your support and patience. I'm excited for this year for Overwatch and whatever happens leading up to Overwatch 2. Big thanks to Blizzard actually for this. And there's also a case, and there's also a copy of Overwatch on the Switch. So I'm going to be starting this giveaway from early next week, if you're watching this in late January of 2020. So do keep an eye out for that. Big thanks to all of my patrons on Patreon. If you'd like to see how you can support my channel when I reactivate it and kick it off again with a new start, check out patreon.com/Hammeh, and all of my old and existing Overwatch lore, interactions, voice lines, everything to do with the world and story of Overwatch as it comes out, as it's talked about. Check all of these playlists here. Throw a like and subscribe if you enjoyed as well. Cheers for tuning in. I've been Hammeh. Take it easy.